What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the On the Hill HVAC channel. Today we're going to be talking about superheat and subcooling. If you remember in the last refrigeration cycle video, I mentioned those two terms. But today we're going to go over what those two terms are and what they mean. But first, before we get into the video, the meat of the video, I'd like to ask you to like and subscribe so we can grow the channel and start educating more people on the HVAC industry. So, superheat and subcooling. These two things can tell you a lot about what's going on with your system. I know a lot of guys, especially older techs. Now, I'm not knocking older techs, but it's just a fact. A lot of older techs tend to not measure these things. But these things are a good indicator of what could be going on in your system. So especially if you're having an issue with the refrigeration side of things and you're not really sure what's going on, these things can help you and lead you in the right direction and tell you what's going on with your system. So we'll talk about superheat first. And I'd like to note that I'm also talking about this from a straight air conditioner side of things. But in a heat pump, these things kind of reverse as far as the location. But right now, I'm just going to use terms that are coinciding with a straight AC unit. So superheat is going to be happening in your evaporator coil. Now, both of these things are sort of kind of the same definition. They're just the opposite of each other. So remember what I said in your evaporator coil, the refrigerant is absorbing heat. So the superheat is the one that happens in the evaporator coil because we're absorbing heat. And if you remember correctly, the evaporator inside there, the refrigerant was boiling. Okay, so that brings us to this. Superheat is how much the refrigerant is heated after the state change. And of course, what I mean after the state change is going from a liquid to a vapor. So I'll write that here. And of course, this value can tell you a lot about what's going on with your system. It can tell you if you've got something going on with your metering device. And these are just examples. There's other things that could be happening based on your superheat number. It could tell you, you've got some low airflow or anything such as that. So that's superheat. I'm not really going to talk about how to measure them today. We'll kind of go over that later, possibly in a later video. I just want to kind of introduce these things. Subcooling. Remember at the beginning of the video I said these happen. These are kind of the opposite of each other. So subcooling happens at the condenser coil. And of course it's also how much the refrigerant is heated after the state. Not how much the refrigerant is heated after the state change. That is for the evaporator coil. I got caught up reading this here, so ignore that. This is not about heat, of course, because subcooling, it has the word cool in here. It is about cooling. So this also has to deal with a state change, and the state change is going to be from a vapor to a liquid, like we talked about in our last video on the refrigeration cycle. So this subcooling is actually how much the refrigerant is cooled after the state change. So after that vapor is completely turned to a liquid, this is going to measure how much that refrigerant is cooled. And again, like I said, these numbers can tell you a lot of different things. It can tell you about airflow. It can tell you if you have a restriction somewhere. I mean, both of these numbers can tell you a lot of those things. So that's a basic explanation of these. And understand that this is very basic. This is not all you're going to need to know about these. You're going to need to know about how to measure these two. But I just wanted to go over those in a basic sense to get you thinking about those. Again, we're going to build on our videos. We're not going to give you a bunch of information at first. So that's superheat and subcooling. Again, it's not everything. It's just a basic explanation. So I just want to thank you guys for watching. And feel free to like and subscribe to this channel. And thank you for watching On the Hill HVAC.